When I was replacing the lower door pillar, I come across a few things that I wasn't expecting. As you can see here, the old one, there wasn't much left of it. The rust pretty much ate everything away, so I drilled out the spot welds and removed it with an air chisel. I did get a new one, or a set of new ones. I got these from Carolina Classics, and they're actually the only people that I could find that had reproduction pieces for this. So I'll just go over a couple of things that I found when I was working with this. The first thing that I noticed was the hole here for the lower door hinge is actually coarse thread, and on the Ford pickups when they came out, those were fine thread bolts. So it's something the guys got to remember not to get bolts mixed up, and I'll have to find a new bolt to go in the bottom, and so that I don't strip out the threads or break the nut that's welded on to the back loose and have it spin. So something the guys got to remember. Another thing I had to do was in this area here, these pieces were quite a bit thicker in here. So as I was fitting things up, I was grinding the edges down here just to try and get them a little bit closer to what the factory door thickness is, and I got them pretty good. I think it'll fit pretty well. I got the door pillar just clamped in there. It's not 100% where it's going to be, but I just wanted to show how it fits. Another thing, these plug welds here, these holes are not in the piece. You have to drill them out when you get them, and I tried to drill them as close as I could to where the factory ones were, for two reasons. It's a nice surface to weld to, and the other reason was for strength. I thought that if that's where they mounted them to at the factory, that's probably where they would get the most amount of strength, and it would work out fine. Another thing I had to do, I'm not sure how easy it is going to be to see, but right here you can see there's a slot there. What I had to do is I used my body saw and split that so I could spread it this way, because this piece was too tight and it was hitting on the step here, so it wouldn't slide in, and thus this gap over here was too thick. And so I split it and opened it up a bit and put it in, and it's pretty close now. I got to open it up a little bit more, and then it'll be fine. On the passenger side, I went to put it in, and it's quite a bit too narrow. So I measured the two, and there's actually almost 3/16 of an inch difference between the two lower door pillars that I got from Carolina Classics. So the passenger side will need a little bit more work than this one to get it to fit. And but that's something we'll get through. Another thing, just to mention, when you're working on this stuff, I guess I learned that you should take pictures of everything before you start cutting it apart, because you never know when you're going to have to look back at it. And on this piece here was one of those cases. This piece along here, when I was having trouble getting it to fit, I went back and looked at the pictures and noticed that this area here stuck out further and wasn't as smooth as what it was from the factory. And then I noticed that the length of this step here was longer than what it was at the factory. So when I started opening it up and spreading it, I hammered and dollied it to get it a lot closer to fitting, and it made quite a difference. So pictures help out a guy a lot. This area here, was totally rusted. All that was left was just a skin down each side and across the top. And so looked at the pictures on that piece just to make sure when I went to put it in that it didn't have any special mounting or brackets, because there was nothing really left there. And so everything is done. The back side is already boxed in and stuff. So this plate is still loose here because underneath here in this area there'll have to be a weld done, and I wanted to make sure that before I welded either one of these pieces that this gap on the back side underneath this flange was still good. And I've just about got it to the point now where I'm going to weld it in solid and I'll go from there. Another surprise I had was when I removed part of the floor pan. There wasn't much there, it was pretty much rusted out anyway, but I did cut some of the stuff out to make room so that when I got to the back here to replace this with new metal, that I had room to actually do my welds and stuff along there and get into the corner back here. And when I cut the floor piece out, I noticed that we got these big rust holes in this mounting lip. The passenger side doesn't have that. The passenger side is okay. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to remove this lip, make a new one, and the interesting part is on the back side here, it's got another lip that's bent over to give it some strength. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to make the straight piece. Can do that in one piece, but then when it comes to the corner here, I'll have to do that in a couple of pieces or pie-shaped the bend there, so I can get the radius right. And then this little piece here, it actually stops there when you put the floor pans in. That's as far as it goes, because the lower cab mount welds down here and it goes across in that direction. So that's as far as that piece goes. So I still got a little bit of work ahead of me before I get to the point where I can actually start fitting in these new floor pans. Also got those from Carolina Classics, and hopefully they fit. I put them in and marked around, and it looks like they're not too bad. Again, the one on the passenger side is a little bit more out of shape than what this one will be, but I'm sure I can make them fit. So if there's something else that comes up, I'll make another little video.